I am FXDLSBROOKLYN, a distance rider based out of New York City who's been laying down the heavy miles on the bike trips for the last decade. There are many reasons why I would argue it's worth subjecting yourself to the inevitable challenges of the long road, but one that stands out is that it's going to make you a harder and stronger rider. For the same reason, I also think there is value to riding in one of the most unforgiving riding environments imaginable, none other than out here in the streets of New York City. In this video, we're going to hop on my 124 Dyna Lowrider S and rip through some early spring miles as we explore an important topic, which is of course how there's actually some positives to pushing yourself to ride through the chaos of the New York City streets. So this ride would start out like most, just me and my 124 Dyna Lowrider S. This bike, close to ticking over 70,000 miles, continues to be the right tool for the job in most scenarios. Whether it's laying down the long miles on the bike trips or out riding the New York City chaos, almost a decade of dialing this bike in, well, it just speaks for itself. Alone once again in Dead End Alley, surrounded by nothing but barbed wire and the rats, starting this bike up at 7 a.m. hits like a second cup of coffee, and I was looking forward to the meditatively fast and loud miles to come. If you subscribe to my channel, then you know I celebrate riding through all seasons and all conditions. I recently had someone comment about how chipped my front forks were, and rather than this comment throwing shade on something that would be unsightly to some, complimented the fact that these were battle scars of the hard miles. This city is no city for show bikes, no city for garage queens. The true stand to celebrate every chip, scratch, and corrosion from the winter salt, and then come back for more. Whether you're on your motorcycle or just trying to survive out here off the bike, to make it out here, it's a constant grind and constant battle, and if you're not mentally prepared and your bike is not set up properly, you're just not going to last long. In terms of your bike, the basic equation is you need to be able to both stop fast and go fast, which is why most typical New York builds prioritize torque, but also a serious brake setup. For me, Lindell brakes, racing pads, Brembo calipers, and ABS are all part of the winning formula. But another important factor is being able to see as well as being seen on your motorcycle, which is why I run nothing but the best when it comes down to my lighting, which is none other than my Moon's MC Fly-Eye V2. This combined with an aesthetically loud bike as well as gear that contrasts off of the black pavement, I spare nothing when it comes to being seen out there on the streets. The Kosciuszko Bridge was majestic as always, and the skyline rose in the distance on the 495, cutting through the mist in the horizon as I rode on. Emerging from the Midtown Tunnel, the various trees starting to bloom just hits different within the contrast of the dead winter I had been thriving in throughout the last few months. This is one of the many benefits to riding motorcycles in the city, is that it provides a truly visceral connection to your city, especially if you're out there in all seasons. Our city has a reputation for never sleeping, which in many senses is true. But this particular morning, I enjoyed a Grand Central as empty as the last time Will Smith was here. It's moments like this that are reserved for only those who can master the morning, which is rule number 1 to getting the most out of your city miles. People come and visit my city, and most walk, take cabs, and some take the subway. But the truest way to experience this city is, of course, on two wheels. This city, of course, has no shortage of problems, both big and small. Every New Yorker has a love-hate relationship with their city. But regularly exploring and experiencing my city on my motorcycles keeps me connected and appreciative of the unique riding experience that this city provides. You're just never going to truly appreciate the American craftsmanship until you've ridden across our many bridges, tunnels, and streets. So yeah, essentially adding the element of motorcycles to any activity is going to make it cooler. And the same definitely stands to be true when it comes down to experiencing the city. So when it comes down to becoming the best version of myself in whatever I'm doing, my philosophy has always been quite simple, which is to actively surround myself with people who are better than me. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this meant regularly only rolling with belts that were higher than me. Within distance riding, it means having road dogs by my side like Kevin and Von Asphalt, who have broken records when it comes down to heavy miles. The same philosophy holds true for your riding. That old saying, if you could make it here, you could make it anywhere, remains most true when it comes down to riding. NYC has no shortage of potholes, reckless drivers, unrelenting traffic, salt, ice, hell, the list goes on. But it's all of these factors that create a default riding environment that has become normal to me. As a distance rider, this means that when I leave on my cross-country bike trips, I very rarely encounter conditions or situations that are as nearly as challenging as what I deal with on the daily back home in the city. This is the edge that's allowed me to have completed successful bike trip after successful bike trip throughout the last decade. The city miles teaches you flexibility, anticipation, and riding with your head on a swivel as a prerequisite. So when you leave, well hell, everything feels like easy miles after that. I would make my way back to Brooklyn as Von Asphalt called me on my Lexus Novus to meet up and ride east. The chaotic energy of some early NYC miles was flowing through my blood, and I felt ready to start my day. So in conclusion, yes, this city is really hard on motorcycles. I have friends who come to visit, and they never come back because their bikes are so badly damaged. The city came close to killing me 2 years back as I laid bleeding on the pavement after being hit on my FXR. But like all things in this world, everything states its opposite. The sun burns, but the sun can also provide warmth. Where the city can provide conditions that are nightmares, so can it provide experiences like nowhere else that will sharpen you as a rider if you could keep that PMA and ride on. And well, that's it for this one. For those who make miles and not excuses, we do have some new teas available. And as always, if you enjoyed these city miles, please take a moment to both like and subscribe, as it does help us on the path forward. Finally, if you're looking for some deeper cuts, previews, and behind-the-scenes action, find me on patreon.com/FXDLSBROOKLYN. Regularly subject yourself to challenging situations and conditions, pay the iron price, and on that, FXDLS Brooklyn is out.
Goodbye.